Thank you for joining us today. This is the second of two webinars around bidding skills. So last week we talked about just basic bidding skills. This is just some extra layers, extra bit of finesse to add on to those. As ever, these are recorded and they are available for your delectation on both the Brandwin YouTube channel and also at the Wandsworth and Richmond procurement website sections. There'll be links to them there. So let's crack on as ever. Plenty of content for you today. Quick introduction to me. I've met a number of you. I work with SMEs, particularly around London, but have done work both around the country and internationally. Really understanding from both sides of the table about this bidding process and how hopefully to demystify some of that today to help you have the confidence to have a crack at this, to work out how to get bigger contracts. What do you need to do? How do you need to think slightly differently? How do you have the confidence to create the time and space to find these opportunities, go after these opportunities, complete the bid paperwork and go and win those bids and grow your businesses? That's what it's all about. So as I said, this is the second of two. This is the kind of the advanced one. So what are we going to look at today? Well, we've talked about getting the basics right and why organizations go to tender. So this is really the extra layer of what makes a bid stand out, what makes it, what turns a perfectly competent bid into a winning bid. So number of pieces to this. As we know, this Fit to Bid program comes at you from Wandsworth and Richmond. If you go to fittobid.co.uk, if you're not registered, click on the Wandsworth and Richmond. That'll take you through a process. You get access not only to this webinar series, but also one-to-one mentoring and a host of online resources and preparation for the Meet the Buyer event on October the 2nd. So where are we in our process? We're in this sort of middling bit where we're learning about bidding skills, but the whole process really is teaching you how to engage with procurement, what the skills you need, sales enablement, which is how do you spot those opportunities, and then how do you turn those opportunities into a winning tender. So let's see where we are from here. So by way of recap, why do organizations go to tender? Well, they're looking for someone to do a job for them. That job might be they're looking for a new way of doing things, or they might be looking for a way of doing a job that's been done before in a different way, in a faster way, or a more reliable way. But these organizations don't have those capabilities themselves, and therefore going out to the market. What are they looking for? They're looking for competence. They're looking for some credibility. They need to know that you can do this, and frankly, that they're not taking too much of a risk on you. Particularly as they're getting smaller SMEs into the supply chain, they recognize there will be a little bit of risk, and they're prepared to take that if you can demonstrate that you've got enough credibility and that risk will be rewarded. We talked last week about just getting the basics right, answering the question, making sure that each question that's asked has an answer, that you're answering what you were asked. And that was just about picking apart questions and really understanding what the objective of the organization is that's tendering. What are they really looking to achieve? How can you help them with all of those goals? And lastly, we talked about how to research the client. So the internet and increasingly ChatGPT and these AI tools, Perplexity and so on, are your friend in terms of finding out much more about who is in charge of the decision making, and in broad policy terms, what it is they're looking to achieve. So let me move some bits and bobs around on my screen. We're just going to dive in now into what really are the parts of a winning bid. So we've got our magic hexagons. So let me just pull all these up rather than work through them all. So you can all, those that can read fast they can read faster than I talk. Good luck to you. Last week, we spent a little time just on the first of these two rules, which is around directly answering the questions and having an understanding of what the evaluation criteria or the marking scheme is. And often that will be on the document that you're answering. The second point is about showing understanding of the broader needs. So if you know that a council is particularly interested in sustainability, that's high up its agenda, and you can offer a solution that you believe is more sustainable than other solutions in the market, then demonstrating that will help you win your bid. This week, we're talking about the next or surrounding layers of the onion, if you like. So we're talking about demonstrating credibility. We're looking at what the benefits are for the client. So one of our bugbears on this side of the table when we're advising is people are very keen to sell, to ram their product or service down the throat of an organization, but really flipping that and thinking about what's the benefit to that organization of working with me and my organization. We're going to talk a little bit about evidence and the types of evidence you can use. And there's a nice kind of long list of things, of sources that you can use almost as a bit of a tick list. And then lastly, we're just going to talk about the use of written language. So just making sure that you think about being very concise and clear and precise in your bid. No one wants War and Peace. They want the questions answered simply and clearly. So we'll give you some advice later on about how to think about doing that. So the golden rule really is the what is there is, what are you being asked? If you must answer the question, you must write the whatever the exam question is, whatever the tender question is. When you go back and read everything, go back and ask yourself, what did the tendering organization want to get out from me? And have I given them what they asked for? Is it all relevant to that? So that's the key bit. A lot of tenders that we see, apart from the basics of not being complete or missing documentation or just standard things of doing things in too much of a hurry and not getting somebody to proofread, is this point about seeing, oh, look, Wandsworth Council wants me to deliver face towels, and then just charging off into, this is our kind of face towel, and this is how often we deliver it, and our face towels are better than anyone else's face towels, without really understanding that the question was framed in a slightly different way. And it might be, how can you run a scheme to help us to supply, but also help us reduce the number of face towels that we use? If you don't really read all of the question, really understand everything you're being asked, then you'll miss out. So this rule is being very, very clear on what you're being asked and have you answered what you're being asked. A lot in this slide. So I'll give you just a second to have a look through this. And then once you've caught up with that, and I'll have a little sip of water, we can just work our way through it. So looking at the top part of this slide, if you think about these as the mini questions that sit in the tender, these 2 points are critical with the little bullets. So when you're describing your solution, how you're going to solve the problem, include what's relevant. And that relevant point, so if it makes sense to include it, include it. Don't just add things in because you think that it might be interesting. Answer the question with relevant information. And also just use your common sense. If you sit on the other side of the table as the person who's buying from you, what are the questions that you need answered? What would you need to see? And that's a common sense thing. I've got a colleague who's got a nice phrase. He says, in business, you've got to be a PhD in your client's problems. And that then allows you to present your solution in a way that they understand it solves their problems. And it's the same here. You've really got to understand what that tendering organization is really looking to achieve and what they need to get you through to the next phase or through to being a winning bid. So let's look at these questions. So the how, the overriding bit, how are you going to solve the problem for them, is that complete description of how you're going to do what you're being asked to do. And ideally, you want to substantiate that. Just means you want to be able to prove it. You want to be able to say, we've done it before. Here's our track record. Here's people who've got specific experience of that. And then if you break that down into these 5 elements, so the who, what, when, where, and why, all just start to help you really think about how you break down your offering. So the who, be specific. Who is going to do what job? What are the roles? Is X going to manage the relationship? Y is going to do the day-to-day, be the day-to-day contact, and Z is going to do the work. Set that out. Who's going to be responsible for each bit that you're being asked to do? And if you can add to that, you say, well, X is our day-to-day person because they've got this experience of 30 years of managing this service day-to-day. They're experienced at it. So if we've got the people, the who, the what is how do you deliver that? And that's everything from, you know, our patented 5-step process to just saying this is how we deal with these things. We look at it in 3 phases, or we've got a process or a method. What is it that you do, and set that out really clearly. What products do you use? What equipment do you use? If that is relevant to the organization you're buying from, then make sure you've spelled that out. And then just in terms of jargon busting, that SLA, I think you'll all know is a service level agreement, but it might be that you set out, typically in our service level agreement, our understanding of how we work together day to day. We know these terms are really relevant for you. So it could be we always we answer all phone calls we return all phone calls within half an hour. We return all emails within 4 hours. We will have someone on site within 24 hours of being contacted. Whatever that might be for your relevant industry and product. Spell that out if it's relevant. Other things that organizations are looking for are the whens. So what's to be delivered when? Is that a regular thing that, every week at this point this happens? Or is it you're building something? And so phase 1 will take X, first 100 days. Phase 2 will take X, and then phase 3 we're doing this. Set that out nice and clearly where you can. Where? So that could be everything from are you on site, off site? What facilities do you have that help demonstrate that you can deliver that? If you offer, I don't know, a cake company, if you've got your own dedicated bakery, well, that's useful to know, and useful to know where it is. It's our own bakery, and it's in the borough, and it employs local people. All helps. And so you can work down that where list. I think the why is often the where the real pop comes when you're reading through these. The who, what, when, where are kind of a bit mechanical. The why is the rationale. Why do you offer this service? Maybe some of your backstory is relevant here. We found that when we were looking for one of these, we couldn't find one, so we invented it ourselves. Or typically, we saw this going on the market and we thought we can do it better. Or breaking down our magic 5-step patented process. Well, we have 5 steps because each of these steps delivers something different, and that's what the 5, when they add up together, that's the difference that we make. The whys in there is about quality, and it allows you, that's the bit where you can start to show evidence and start to link to some of the benefits that you offer and the extra value of hiring you beyond value for money. So let's see if the magic slide clicker is going to have a little rest. So that's quite a big framework there of things to come back to, and maybe split out how your offer is can be kind of stripped down, torn apart, and then built back up together. Um, uh, this slide really at the top, it's really understanding what makes you stand out. USP is probably a bit dated now. The kids have probably got some other crazy meme thing. It's your unique selling point, unique selling proposition. But it's that bit about why you're different. I like the analogy of I used to be a lawyer, and all lawyers used to wear kind of navy blue suits and carry black briefcases. And actually, so if you went to a beauty parade, one of these things where they get 8 or 6 law firms, and they all come in and they all say, "We're terribly good at being lawyers," and off they trot out. Actually, if one of those law firms has a yellow briefcase instead of a black briefcase, when you get to the end of the day, what's the thing you remember? Well, we need to get a couple of firms back. Well, let's get that lot with the yellow briefcase and the other one. And it's just that bit that makes them stand out. So what is your yellow briefcase for your business? Picking this apart, and this comes on to some of the language stuff we'll talk about a bit later in the webinar. So unique. Unique really is kind of, there's one. It's the only one. Unmatched, unequaled, unparalleled. So and that's quite unusual, actually. If you do think you're unique, go and ask yourself, really, are we? Now, if we're not unique, that's okay. I read a really interesting a blog yesterday by Sir John Hegarty talking about he hates the word original. That's not original enough. Well, nothing's original, and in the same way, very little is unique. He likes the word, rather than original, he likes fresh. And here, I think we can overcome that lack of uniqueness by talking about we're different because we've innovative. We've done something that's fairly standard, but we've just added our own 5%, and that makes us different. That makes us better. That adds value. So think about what the bits of your solution are that meet what the client wants slightly differently and hopefully better than everyone else in the market. So that's the point on USP. Okay. Another sort of slightly random golden rule, we should probably number these. Everything in that bit, once you're beyond the basic mechanics of we'll deliver this at this point, at this date, for this price, at this time, is if you're adding some value in, then you've got to add this so what test. So if that 5% twist makes you feel good, but does absolutely nothing for the clients, nothing for that turning organization, it's of no value. And in fact, will just irritate the person on the other side of the desk. So think about that very simply. We do this, so what? Now, if you're able to say, we do this because we find that enables us to do X differently, then that's useful. So be really kind of quite hard on yourself about how do we justify this benefit in terms of adding value to the tendering organization. So now time for you to do a little bit of the work, if that's all right. So in the chat, what I'd really like you to do is just drop down for your own solution or your own product. How would you describe the benefits of what you do? So I'm obsessed with paper towels this week for some reason. Paper towels, face towels, fine. A face towel is a face towel, and it comes in packs and it's got a dispenser. Now, that's that's just the product. That's just the thing. And if you come once a week to refill them, fine. But what's the benefit of your particular solution? How can you explain the added value? You know, is it that when you come to replenish stocks, you've got a sensor, which means you don't have to come so often, or you make sure you never run out? Is it because you've got bicycle trucks that are more sustainable for the planet? if you just pop in that chat book, how would you describe what the benefits of your solution? How do you describe those? Can you just drop those down? I'll give you a minute or two. That's great. In-house manufacturing means you've got faster response times. Faster response times, happier end clients, and you means you can support them with their own brand promise. That's a nice one. Often talk about sometimes it's the experience that the clients have. If you're a high-end product, often talk about providing a concierge or a white glove service, which means actually at every stage, our team are briefed to do things in this way. What that means is, as a benefit to you, we're reflecting maybe your brand. Let's see if I can just pop into the next slide and oh, here we go. It's Joe. Brilliant. So fantastic. So if you've got a client who's trying to hit their own sustainability targets, suddenly as an input to them, you've got a way of explaining, you've got a new technical solution that allows them to recycle easily, and that local recycling facilities can use it rather than having some expensive end of life problem for them, or for them having to account differently. Great. Those are great little examples. Let's keep cracking on through. Oh, of course, I've got this lovely long list here. So I'll let you scan your way through that while I just kind of check back in with the chat and great, Natalie, that's super. So your tours, the benefit of that is you're just kind of increasing visibility without having to hire extra staff, or and you're reaching a broader audience than you'd otherwise reach. So you're kind of widening the pipeline, if you like, and it's always on. Lovely. So primary benefits, quite an interesting kind of range here. So some are sort of financial. So reducing, eliminating costs, increasing or growing turnover, margins. So those are the sort of financial ones. Interestingly, there's a whole number of other ones in here that are almost triple bottom line stuff. So reducing environmental impact, decreasing waste, increasing recyclability. So Bajis, you design and manufacture carpets for hotels, but what's the benefit of doing that? How you do that? So I know from working with you, your designs are amazing and you source them really well. So your benefits are the traceability of that pipeline and the added value to the design aesthetic of that hotel. Those would be kind of more the bargains. The design and manufacture is just a given. That's your first one in. It's that extra benefit that sits on top. So let me switch back to these primary benefits. We talked about the financial ones, maybe environmental ones. Here, I mean, saving management time. Time is a big issue. Just about everyone everywhere is trying to do more with less money and less time. So making life easier is a great benefit to offer. Great benefit to offer. And then further down at the bottom end here. So, and actually, this is a kind of a secondary financial one. Staff turnover is a real hidden expense. It's very expensive to hire and induct and train. That cost churn. So if whatever you're doing reduces staff turnover, which could also be linked to giving them time back, making their job satisfaction higher. All of these benefits are really important. Let's move on from that list. I'm conscious that we're cracking on. So let me move the chat to one side. So the key about these benefits, particularly if you can start to quantify them, is that they create a perception of, it's a perception of greater value, I would word it. That your bids got value, but actually if you do this as well, fantastic. That makes it different. That makes me more attracted to this bid, because I can see the benefits here. Now, these should probably be on one of these kind of aspirational posters, so people buy what they believe in. So wherever you can, if you can provide evidence, that really, really helps you. If you can provide a proof point, and a lot of you have spoken to in the one-to-one meetings, it's been about how do you gather those testimonials, those nice quotes, those case studies, get your clients on a little video saying not just nice things about you, but saying, actually, before I met Malcolm, I had this problem. Malcolm and his team were able to apply their solution, and we went from having 10 clients a day to 25 clients a day. That's brilliant. So you can see a real benefit there, and it's measurable, and it's a client talking about it. So let's tuck into looking at evidence and what makes compelling evidence. Let me, I might just, yeah, okay, let's just work our way back through these. I was going to jump straight into the evidence bit, but let's work around this too. So we talked about what the benefits are, but just as I've talked in the kind of testimonial terms about whatever Malcolm was able to do to sales, what's your story? What would your clients say about you if asked? What if if you weren't in the room, how would they talk about you? And this is the other bit, is what would you want them to say? So what is it that you can do? And let's just put these in the chat again. How do you make what you say more believable? So what are the proof points that you use in your business when you're out talking to prospects? What are the evidence points that you offer? How do you back up what you're saying? How do you add credibility? So Google reviews are really really interesting one. Google reviews, and then there's is it Trustpilot and FIFO and these platform type reviews. And that's the bit, they are independent. They're I know TripAdvisor's had its moments, but all these platforms have tightened up quite a lot, I think, on making sure they're genuine reviews. I was really impressed recently with a kind of a plumbing firm that came around, chatted, did a lovely job, and actually as he left, he had a really nice way with him. He'd done a smashing job, done it on time, cleaned up after himself, said, listen, we're having a bit of a push on. The plumber who comes at the end of the month who gets the most Google reviews for the firm is going to win a bottle of champagne. So would you mind just taking 5 minutes? And I thought, absolutely, I've taken 5 minutes to fill out a Google review. And that's how they've gone around building their Googles. They've decided Google reviews are for us. Let's just make sure we collect them religiously. So Google references budgets, yes. Accreditations, training, they're fantastic. Again, it's that bit where it's an independent third party. It's a certificate, governing body, an awarding body. Terrific. So passion's great if you can bottle it, but it's very hard to get that down on paper sometimes. So the case studies and the evidence that way. So being able to say, you're asking us to do this service, provide this product. Well, over here we've done something like that for someone similar, and their experience was good. Qualifications, yes, regulations, awards, all of those. So I think now the deck will take me to the long list of types of evidence. So deep breath as we plunge into this. There's quite a lot on this slide as we unveil it. So we're going to divide up just the different types of evidence. Now, some of these will make a lot of sense for you, and some of you will go, yeah, not for us. But bear with me as we go through. The purpose of this is to help you think through what types of evidence are available, so you can start to think about how you regularly acquire that evidence and what sort of format you put it in when you are completing tenders or bidding for work. So the objective stuff, third-party stuff. We talked about surveys and reviews, testimonials, references, awards, press articles. We haven't really talked about the power of that. That's enormously powerful if you've got some kind of press exposure. I was talking to a lovely lady yesterday who makes amazing cake, good day cakes, very top end cakes, amazing brownies, and she'd had a lot of success on getting onto sort of, morning TV and daytime TV with her some really amazing top end cakes, and that had really helped her business move on. And of course, you're reaching such a big audience. Objective evidence, so being out on site, financial guarantees, sometimes that's required, which is, yes, these people can manage a £2 million project because we stand behind them. All of those things, accreditations and audits, all that stuff is in the objective evidence pile. Kind of its close neighbor is sort of business evidence. So if you look at those operating procedures and project methodologies, simply having a process, a way of doing things, provides comfort to a reader, to a potential buyer. They have a 10-step process. Whatever the process is, that's interesting. They're not just making it up as they go along. Because if they've got a process, I'm assuming they can train to that process. They can manage the quality of that process. What's kind of interesting is seeing those processes then with a case study wrapped around it. So in terms of, we've got a 5-step process. When we work with company X, the timber yard, we did this first, we did this second, this third, this fourth, and this fifth, and this was the result. This is how we applied our process. So if that's sort of objective third-party evidence, this is about what have you got to hand in your bit. So what's your own data metrics? What can you show? What can you demonstrate? What are the statements you got? You can trust me because X. What are the customer survey data you've done? What's your own? What are the stuff that sits in your own marketing materials that you can use? And sometimes actually having a strong opinion is very useful. So it could be, we've decided as a firm not to go where everyone else is going because we don't believe that's right. We have decided to go this way. For environmental reasons, we believe that using this technology is short term, and so we've stuck to our knitting. We only use this technology because ultimately it is more recyclable. Yes, Emma's done a lot of press work, really helped her business, and great if you can, if you've got the kind of business or service that relates into interesting stories for media. Not a subject for today, but one I'm very happy to talk about at any stage. Other company evidence is CV. So what have you or your people done that shows you've got the credibility and the quality to deliver what's being asked of you? Sector evidence. So sometimes when a tendering organization goes out, they kind of don't know what they don't know. So be able to explain, this is how things get done in this bit, particularly if it's anything that's regulated, anything that's got health and safety around it. So particularly sort of food, hospitality sector. So those don't kind of make assumptions that the buyer will know what all the codes are and what all the health and safety certifications are that are needed. It's worthwhile sometimes setting that out, saying, in order to do this safely, all kitchens must be X approved, all staff must be Y trained, and that's what we do. Or we use this third-party piece of kit because that's the state of the art in the industry, or that we adopt a standard service approach, and actually our point of difference is elsewhere, but we are absolutely in line with industry standards. And then these pieces of evidence, I think, are that little bit more persuasive. So operational evidence is quite a nice heading. So it's how you really demonstrate your experience. So again, if the other columns are kind of building blocks a bit, this is explaining how you helped at the start of a contract. How do you make that transition smooth? How did you make that induction process easy? How did you work with a client to make sure that adoption of what you have was smoothly done? What are their reporting requirements? Now, if you don't know and they haven't told you, and you haven't been able to find that out, what are you going to offer up? Explaining that actually, typically the industry tends to do monthly reporting. We find monthly reporting is too granular and actually gets in the way. So we use quarterly reporting, but obviously at any stage we're happy to do light reporting on a monthly basis, whatever it might be. Getting all the way down, things like issues and challenges, being candid about, often when people change supplier, this happens. We mitigate that by doing Y. If you can explain how you've come up against a problem and resolved it, that's really powerful, because then you're not going to walk into the same bear pit. And then kind of as a thread through these, through case studies, testimonials, trust me statements, anything you can get from an end user or another stakeholder is really valuable, that third-party stuff. The analogy I use is the restaurant. If I tell you there's a fantastic new restaurant in town, the food is brilliant, the ambience is wonderful, the service is immaculate, you must go, book a table tonight, here's the address, come here, be there at 7 o'clock. And you turn up at 7 o'clock with all these expectations, and you find out that actually I'm the chef and I'm the waiter, and it's Shay Roderick over the door. You're going, yeah, I'm not quite so sure about this. But if it's a third party that said it, it's so much more powerful. So I would encourage you to think about where you can run a little process to keep, anytime you have an opportunity to take feedback and to formalize that, to write it down, either a full case study or just a little testimonial or a Google review. You get rigorous about doing that. It'll do wonders for your own business, as well as helping you in bid situations. Right, where are we off to? And these are kind of the rules about evidence, relevant, recent if you can, and do include them in your planning process. Sometimes you might need to think about, oh, crikey, I need to submit some and I don't have them. So I really would encourage you to kind of build up your larder, your shells of testimonials and case studies, so you've always got them to hand. Right, quick breather, because we're into the last little section here. This is about the use of language in and how you write in these documents. So accurate, clear, concise, but also less, if you can. And that's often not easy. I think it's a Churchill quote, which is, I'm terribly sorry for writing such a long letter, but I didn't have time to write a short one. Because brevity in communication sometimes takes that little extra time to edit back. And very conscious that a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't get into business to write, they get into business to sell, to serve, to create. And this isn't necessarily one of their fortes. So this is where you can lean on the technology to offer you alternative versions. I'm not necessarily saying be a slave to ChatGPT and Perplexity, but those kind of tools now where you're saying, here's what I want to get across. Can you write this for me accurately, clearly, and concisely? then use those tools. But here are the principles, because you need to know the principles to work out whether what you're getting out of the machine is sensible or not. So what we're looking to do, and the reason why we're looking to write in a particular way, is to make a connection. And that's the bit that sits in the middle of this sort of Venn diagram thing on the left. So if I'm running a procurement department, I'm busy, and I'm not going to work too hard. And if you make me work, I'm going to get cheesed off, and your files are going to go frankly to the bottom of the pile or just get skimmed. So what we need to do is make our submissions really easy for the user. In this case, the user is a procurement or decision maker. Make it really easy for them to understand that they got the right person. So keep the focus, keep it relevant. This is all about understanding and then answering the question very clearly. Now, the flip side is, if you've really answered the question and you prepare and present your case and your evidence, it's relevant and accurate and concise and clear, they'll go, wow, they really know what they're doing. Really know what they're doing, and bubbles to the top of the pile, or big tick, we've got to have these people. That's a great first impression. So some rules for writing. So let's, sorry, just moving around the charts is not on top of these. So actually, I always think kind of rules for presentations that never have long sentences where you can have short ones. So don't use metaphors, similes, that kind of flowery language that you might see in a magazine or newspaper. Keep it really simple. Brevity, a short word rather than a long word. Don't have extra words. And we'll come on to this in a minute, a bit of an exercise, how we spot these things. For those of us that are grammarians, you're using the active tense rather than the passive. And I'll give you an example of that. And likewise, jargon, particularly if you're in an industry, is so off-putting. So please be very careful not to use scientific words or jargons if there's an equivalent. And if there isn't an equivalent, then make sure you explain it briefly. And then the last rule, I love this one, which is, rather than saying anything outright irrelevant, you can break any of these rules. So as ever with the English language, nothing is ever sacrosanct. You can bend and shape it. It's a living, breathing thing. But these, there are probably 5 principles, and the 6th principle is ignore the principles if it helps you be clearer. So let's get into some examples here. So this stuff about active rather than passive. So Oliver Twist was written by Charles Dickens, but actually, if you flip that around the other way, Charles Dickens wrote Oliver Twist. Now, the interesting thing is, just you saved 2 words. Now, sometimes in some bits you will be word limited, so every word needs to sweat for you, needs to deliver it. And actually, it also just makes it easier to read. So if you're not a budding novelist, always just go for the active tense and write in that straightforward way. So what to avoid? One of my bugbears are the Americanisms, because particularly kind of Microsoft often resets itself to English US rather than English UK. Or what you end up with is kind of funny American spelling, sometimes with Zs. But this thing about any jargon, Americanisms, stuff that's over the top, I will literally die. How many millions of times have I told you to stop exaggerating? All that. Keep it nice and plain, and it doesn't need to be dull, just needs to be simple. Here's another little one that causes a disproportionate amount of offense. Are just kind of random capitals. If you're using capital letters, know why you're using them. I quite like, and I'll come on to this, if you've got terms you're going to be using a lot repeatedly, define them early on. So company A, brackets, the company, and then you kind of capital C for company, and then wherever you go through, that's fine to use the capital letter there, but avoid the random capitalization stuff. Now, which just means, frankly, this is all to be picked up on a proofreader and a spell checker. So make sure you're using those in any, whichever kind of Google, Microsoft, whatever world you're inhabiting, but also when you get someone to proofread, they should be picking up on these things as well. This in fact, this first one, let me just kind of go back and just let's focus on this one. It is very easy to get into we would, we can, we could, slightly softer. When you are, bizarrely, you don't want Americanisms, but you might want a bit of American positivity, which is we will do this. It's a in the jargon, it's an assumptive close that when we are delivering to you, oh right, you're already in that frame of mind. I need to think of it the same way. So that's a very simple, very powerful one, which is not would, not can, not propose, not could. It's we will. And then there's just another one. Companies are always, and organizations are always singular. Brandwin is, not Brandwin are. This is CNN. I can't get my voice deep enough. So, looking at time, I was hoping to give people a moment just to look at this. Have a read of that text in the box. Have a little read of that. I think it is, yeah, it is just one sentence. Now, I don't know about you, but I sort of lost the will to live around the, maybe it was provision of accountancy services, but just somewhere around that bit. I was going, where is this going? What is this about? Now, what's kind of interesting is when you start to look at that and start to pick it apart, the same way that we did last week, picking apart what the in the tender questions, what's really being asked here. Well, actually, what's the information are we looking to convey here? So there's a charge, there's a payment process, there's accounting services, it's annual, 12 years, 3 years, and then that firmness of cost. What's that all about? It's very wordy, very lengthy, hard to get excited about. Now, interestingly, to take that, you can rewrite that as this, and splitting that down, we've got less than half the words, which frees up more words for more information. We've defined Potter as we, and macro company as you. And it's just that bit of, listen, we've done this for 12 years, every year, and now we're going to do something different. We're going to give you a 3-year option to give you fixed costs. Much, much easier for someone on the other side to go, oh, I know what I'm being offered, and they've made it compelling for me. They've made it compelling because they've simplified it. Very simple, very powerful stuff. There's a number of those that like books on this kind of stuff. Eat, Shoots and Leaves is kind of famous one about kind of grammar and punctuation. There's a number of other books based on sort of civil service English or the Economist English that originally were kind of internal guides that have become published. It's worthwhile just getting one of those and going back and giving yourself a refresher on things that you might not have looked at since primary school, just to go back and look at some of the techniques to make your writing more direct and simple if you're not comfortable. This is a nice table here, just where, you know, I know I've been guilty of this, where you just get into a kind of barrister mode, if you like, of just adding words in and puffing myself up a little bit. And actually look at some of these. Has an ability to, can, which goes under the name of, is called. And this last one at the end. It was observed in the course of the demonstration that we observed that, or we saw. Just taking a red pen through and just trimming those things down makes for much punchier text. and is much easier to read. And here's another list where all those words can be shortened, all those phrases can be simplified, and it's a good habit to get into. Say, right, I've written that. Could I get a red pen out? Could I make that simpler? How could I express that more easily? So we include that in, and we've been at some pains around it because there's a massive differentiator for you. If you can write clearly, simply, so that it's really easy for the person on the other side of the desk, the procurement manager, the decision maker, you're making their life easier, they're more likely to engage, your bid's more likely to be read, understood, and bubbled to the top of the pile. So just to run around the various elements of both weeks, really. So as we kind of work around compliance, have you satisfied all the invitation to tender requirements? Have you answered the exam question? Have you read the instructions, understood them, and given them what you're asked for? And the flip side of that is why you. Are you able to also, when you're doing that, differentiate yourself, provide a clear, strong rationale for why you and not anyone else? Have you taken care to think about your customer? Have you gone and researched, understood them, so you can use their terminology, you can sit things in their context, solve their problems, so that what you're offering really resonates with them. It's not about what you're selling, it's about what they want to buy. And then just to recap on more of the stuff we've done today, have you described the benefits and value, priced it correctly? So, have you made that value clear? Have you made it clear why you'll never be the cheapest solution because you do X, which people who offer a cheap solution can't do? Is your proposal of good quality? Is it easy to understand? Is it well written? Have you made it on the flip side? Have you structured it? Have you set it out in headings where it's easy for an examiner, a marker, a procurement manager to go around tick, 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 tick? Have you made it easy to surface that information so that if I'm looking to score this, I can score it easily? And lastly, on those proof points, have you got different types of evidence, relevant evidence, recent evidence, and where possible, have you got that kind of from third parties? So it is about winning. It's not the taking part. And the reason you get to win is by applying all those rules. Understand the question, have a good compelling answer, make sure your price is right for what you're offering, explain your value, prove to the extent you can that you can do what you say you do, and then write that in a way that is compelling. That's what Bid to Win is about. That's what this this whole program is around. Let me just take you through the last bits of the program. So where are we? We're in 17th. We're in the advanced bid response. Next week, it's about writing public sector bids and tenders. And then 1st October, we've got a session ahead of the Meet the Buyer event on 2nd October, for which I think it's the 20th, I think, is when the all that information comes out. So it's not available yet. Hang on, you will get an invitation if you're here. You're definitely on the list, and we'll get all those details out to you. As you know, this is all on the on the YouTube site and elsewhere. I think almost all of you today will have been through or signed up to have 2 one-to-one sessions with me to work our way through the issues, create a bit of a plan, and capture that in a tender advice session action card. Talked before about the learning resources. There's a ton of stuff. There's an ebook, there's a digital playbook, there's lots of cheat sheets and information all sitting there on the Fit to Bid page. Go and access those. Meet the Buyer events. Not going to talk about much more because we'll do that in a fortnight's time. but really, really powerful having a face to go with a name and start to open up your relationship with an organization and understand how you can get your way into that organization and find opportunities in that organization. And this one specifically around what was interesting is year on year now that these Meet the Buyer events have grown into around Heathrow, have grown into Heathrow Business Summit, and now instantly Heathrow's got its own SME Academy. So do keep an eye open for those that might sell into the Heathrow business economy. They are doing an enormous amount of work to get SMEs into their supply chain. This is the Meet the Bar. It's going to be the exchange down at Twickenham, which is a great space. And we'll send that out. It's run on a speed dating basis. We'll talk about how you need to come prepared with a very rapid pitch and a rapid ask. But really do set those in the diary, come along, come and meet the other SMEs. It's a great networking opportunity for everyone. And regardless of your sector, you will find ways of getting bigger contracts. This stuff is of universal application. And these are ways to start to developing relationships with decision makers. Meet the Bar events, a key part of that. Now, if you're registered for the program under Fit to Bid, then I think that's where the links are. If you go through that process, this is the last year was Wandsworth Council only. This year, Richmond and Wandsworth Council combined, slightly tighter program. But get the information, get the education, find a bid, develop that winning bid, go make more money. There we are. We're now, I think that's 11 o'clock. Things are pinging at me. I hope that has been of use. In fact, more than hope it's been of use, I know it will be of use if you use it. So please take some of today's information, go back, review it, please apply it. That's the key bit. Please apply it, take your time, have a plan. Have a wonderful week. I will see you all next week for the next Brandwin webinar next Wednesday morning. Thank you very much. Lisa, I think you can close the webinar now. Thank you. Thank you all.